Have you ever opened up the Bible and wondered if it's just a jungle of disconnected stories? Or is there a single thread, a single narrative that ties the whole thing together? Well, it turns out there is, and today we're going to uncover the master key that unlocks that unified story. Let's get into it. So that's really the big question, right? You've got this ancient library of texts written over thousands of years by all these different authors and different cultures. How on earth does all of that come together to tell one single coherent story from beginning to end? I mean, it seems impossible. But the answer is actually woven right into the fabric of the Bible itself. And here it is. The key is this idea of covenant. Now, you can think of covenants as the Bible's narrative backbone. This isn't just a simple contract or deal. A covenant is this really serious, binding agreement that God himself initiates to define and structure his relationship with people. This is the framework that holds the entire biblical story together. Okay, so to see how this all works, we've got to go way back, all the way back to the very beginning, because it's in the Garden of Eden that we find the original blueprint for this relationship, the ideal that sets the stage for everything that's about to come. Now, what's interesting is that the word covenant isn't actually used here in the early chapters of Genesis, but all the pieces are there. You've got God, who provides his perfect world for Adam and Eve. He gives them responsibilities, and he lays out very clear consequences if they disobey. This is the foundation. A perfect relationship that, as we know, was tragically broken. So after that relationship breaks, God kind of hits the reset button with the very first formal covenant in the Bible. He makes this universal promise to Noah, and not just to him, but to all of humanity and all of creation. He reaffirms his commitment to the world and promises to never again destroy it with a flood. This creates a stable foundation for his plan of redemption to unfold. Okay, so with that universal promise locked in, the camera of the story starts to zoom in. God narrows his focus from all of humanity to one man and his family. And this is where he kicks off a very specific plan to bring redemption and blessing back into the world. God makes three absolutely massive promises to this man, Abraham. First, he says that his descendants, his seed, will become a great nation. Second, that this nation will get a specific land to call their own. And third, and this one is the game changer, that through his family line, the entire world would be blessed. This three-part promise becomes the engine that drives the rest of the Old Testament story. Yeah, this covenant is a huge turning point. It's not just about one guy or one nation. It's the beginning of God's big strategy to restore his relationship with all of humanity. The blessing was never meant to stop with Abraham's family. It was meant to flow through them to everyone. So the question becomes, how does God take this one nomadic family and turn them into a great nation that can actually bless the world? Well, the next two covenants are all about providing the structure they're going to need, a national identity and a royal leadership. Next up is the Mosaic covenant. This is where God gives Abraham's descendants a national law at Mount Sinai. You can almost think of it as their national constitution. It's what forms them into the nation of Israel and gives them the structure to actually live out that promise of becoming a great nation. And then, believe it or not, the story narrows down even more. The Davidic covenant takes that promise of a kingdom and focuses it on one specific family, the royal line of King David. God promises that an eternal king who would rule over an eternal kingdom would come from David's own family. This starts to give us a clue as to how that worldwide blessing is finally going to be delivered. So let's just pause and recap the flow here. It all starts with a perfect relationship in creation. That's followed by a universal promise to Noah. Then, God zooms in with a specific redemptive promise to Abraham, which is given structure through the national law with Moses, and then focused even further through the promise of a royal dynasty with David. You can see how each step builds logically on the one before it. But there was a major problem. See, despite the law, despite the kings, the people just kept failing to live up to their side of the agreement. The whole system was breaking down. And it wasn't because the covenants themselves were bad, but because of a much deeper issue with the human heart. This meant that something radically new was needed. So the fundamental problem wasn't the covenants. It was what the prophets called hard-heartedness. People simply couldn't keep the law on their own. So the promised new covenant offers a totally radical solution. Not more rules written on stone, but an internal transformation, a new heart, a new spirit, God's own spirit living inside his people. And here is that absolutely stunning promise from the prophet Jeremiah. All right, so we have this incredible series of promises, each one building on the last, all pointing towards some kind of future resolution. So the big question is, how does it all finally come together? Well, this is where the New Testament makes its most bold and central claim. The claim of the New Testament is that Jesus Christ is the person that this entire, sprawling, centuries-long story of covenants was pointing towards all along. He isn't just another step in the chain. He is the climax. He is the fulfillment of the entire story.
You see, the New Testament writers are constantly connecting Jesus back to every single one of these covenants. They call him the last Adam, the one who brings life where the first Adam brought death. He's the true seed of Abraham, the one through whom all the nations of the earth are finally blessed. And he is the royal son of David, the eternal king sitting on an everlasting throne. He is the yes to every one of God's promises.
But there is one last really important piece to this puzzle. Theologians have a little phrase for it. Already, but not yet. The idea is that in Jesus, all those covenant promises have already been fulfilled. The new covenant is here, it's been inaugurated, but, and this is a big but, the ultimate completion of all these promises, well, that's not yet fully realized. The story isn't quite over. And that leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought to chew on. If this grand, unified story has reached its climax in a fulfillment that is both a present reality and a future hope, what does that mean for us, living in the here and now? And what does it imply about where all of human history is ultimately heading? It suggests the story we're all a part of is still unfolding, moving towards its final, glorious conclusion.